On March 29, 2026, Lebanon told Iran's ambassador to get out of the country within 72 hours. Not a protest. Not a summoned diplomat receiving a sternly worded letter. A full expulsion, persona non grata, the most severe act one government can take short of severing relations entirely. Think about what that means. Lebanon, the country Iran spent 4 decades building into its most important regional fortress. The country where Iran's most powerful proxy was born, armed, and sustained. Lebanon just told Iran's top representative, "You are no longer welcome here." To understand why that is extraordinary, you need to understand what Iran actually built in Lebanon and how deep those roots go. In 1982, Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, arrived in the Bekaa Valley with one mission: create a Lebanese Shia militia that could fight Israel and serve as Tehran's forward arm in the Arab world. What they built was Hezbollah. Over the following 4 decades, Iran did not merely support Hezbollah the way a patron supports a client. Iran constructed it: weapons, money, training, ideology, command doctrine, strategic direction. Hezbollah became the most capable non-state military force on Earth, fielding precision missiles, combat-hardened infantry, and an intelligence network that penetrated governments across the region. It fought Israel to a standstill in 2006. It saved Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria. It projected Iranian power from the Mediterranean to the Gulf without Tehran ever having to put its own flag on a battlefield. In return, Hezbollah became the cornerstone of Iran's entire regional strategy. Lose Hezbollah, and Iran loses its most credible deterrent against Israel, its most effective proxy in the Arab world, and its most powerful bargaining chip in any negotiation with the West. Iran's leadership understood this, which is why the channel between Tehran and Beirut was never left to chance. That channel was Majid Ghulam Shabani. His title was ambassador. His actual job was something different. Shabani was an IRGC officer operating under diplomatic cover, a category Iran has used for decades to embed operational commanders inside its embassies in countries where Hezbollah operates. His responsibilities were not the ordinary work of diplomacy. He coordinated weapons shipments moving from Iran through Syrian territory into Lebanon. He oversaw financial transfers running into hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Money that paid Hezbollah fighters, funded social services that bought political loyalty, and purchased the silence of Lebanese institutions that might otherwise have objected. And when Tehran's leadership needed to send a strategic message to Hezbollah's commanders, escalate operations, hold fire, prepare for a specific contingency, Shabani was the man who delivered it. He was not a symbol. He was a circuit. Expelling him does not merely embarrass Iran. It physically severs the operational link between Tehran and its most important proxy at the precise moment that proxy is fighting for its survival. Every weapons coordination call that now goes unanswered. Every financial transfer that now requires a new and untested channel. Every strategic order from Tehran that now arrives through a back channel instead of a trusted officer with direct access. Each of these introduces friction, delay, and the possibility of catastrophic misunderstanding. In modern warfare, that is not a diplomatic inconvenience. That is a capability degradation. Lebanon's foreign ministry statement when it came was brief and surgical. The phrase that mattered was this: Lebanon would pursue an independent foreign policy. 3 words that, in the language of diplomacy, carry the weight of a declaration. Independent from whom? The statement did not say. It did not need to. Everyone in that region, Every government, every intelligence service, every militia commander understood exactly what those words meant. We are no longer taking orders from Tehran. That phrase has never been said out loud by a Lebanese government, not once in 40 years. Consider what it took to say it. Consider the weight of history, of dependency, of armed intimidation that had to be overcome before a Lebanese foreign minister would put those words into an official statement. Something has changed, not at the margins, but at the foundation. The question is, what changed it? Lebanon did not wake up one morning and decide to be brave. Governments do not expel powerful patrons out of principle. They do it when the cost of staying loyal becomes greater than the cost of breaking away. Something made that calculation flip, and the answer is written in the rubble of southern Lebanon, in numbers that should stop you cold. Nearly 1,900 Lebanese civilians are dead. 124 of them were children. 75 hospitals were bombed. 620,000 women and girls were displaced from their homes. 1 million people in total, out of a country of fewer than 6 million, were forced to flee. Southern Lebanon, the heartland of Hezbollah's support base, the villages and towns that had been home to Lebanese Shia families for generations, was reduced to rubble so complete that in some areas satellite imagery could no longer match pre-war maps. The destruction was not collateral, it was structural. And here is the question that broke Lebanese politics open. Who ordered this war? Not Israel. Israel responded. The question is, who decided in early October 2023 that Hezbollah would open a second front against Israel from Lebanese territory? Daily rocket fire, anti-tank missiles, drone strikes, beginning the day after the Hamas attack in Gaza. That decision was not made in Beirut. It was not debated in the Lebanese parliament, not approved by the Lebanese cabinet, not put to the Lebanese people. It was made in Tehran. The strategic logic was straightforward from Iran's perspective. Keep Israel fighting on two fronts, relieve pressure on Gaza, demonstrate that the axis of resistance operates as a unified force. Rationale from Tehran's vantage point. The cost, however, was not paid in Tehran. It was paid in Lebanese blood, Lebanese homes, and Lebanese futures. That is the sentence that, once Lebanese citizens said it out loud, could not be unsaid. Hezbollah has spent 30 years building what analysts call a state within a state. Its own military command, its own social services, its own taxation system, its own foreign policy. It answers to Tehran first and to Beirut never. For decades, large portions of the Lebanese population accepted this arrangement, either because they shared Hezbollah's ideology or because they feared its weapons, or because Iranian money flowing through Hezbollah-linked institutions paid for schools and hospitals that a bankrupt Lebanese state could not provide. That bargain was uncomfortable but functional. 30 days of war destroyed it. When the bombs fell on Lebanese villages, they did not distinguish between Hezbollah supporters and Lebanese citizens who had spent years quietly resenting an armed group that operated beyond any democratic accountability. The displaced million included both. The dead 1,900 included both. And in the aftermath, in the displacement camps, in the ruins of hospitals, in the conversations between Lebanese families who had lost everything, the question was the same everywhere. Why did this happen to us? The answer that came back again and again from Lebanese civil society, from politicians who had been too frightened to speak, from communities that had tolerated Hezbollah's presence for a generation, was devastating in its simplicity. We were used. Iran needed a second front. Hezbollah provided it. We paid for it. Political pressure, when it reaches a certain temperature, becomes indistinguishable from physics. It does not ask permission. It moves. But Lebanon did not act alone. Pull back far enough and a pattern emerges. A coordinated regional strategy, almost certainly directed from Riyadh, designed not merely to limit Iranian influence, but to strangle it diplomatically before the guns go quiet and Tehran can claim victory in the post-war settlement. Qatar expelled Iranian military attachés. The UAE is coordinating post-war reconstruction restrictions with Washington that are specifically designed to exclude Iranian-linked entities. Iraq, where Iran spent years cultivating loyal militias and political clients, is quietly reducing cooperation and signaling openness to a new security arrangement. Jordan closed its airspace to Iranian drone transits, a step with significant operational consequences. Oman, historically Iran's back channel to the west, is blocking Iranian weapons shipments that would previously have moved through its territory without incident. Each of these actions, taken alone, is a diplomatic signal. Taken together, they form a siege. Lebanon's expulsion of Shabani is the most visible and dramatic point in that siege, the action that names the strategy out loud. It is almost certainly not a coincidence that it came after weeks of Saudi-led mediation that offered Lebanon a clear path: expel the Iranian operational presence, accept a ceasefire framework built around Lebanese sovereignty, and receive reconstruction funding that bypasses Hezbollah entirely. Riyadh did not need to threaten. The offer itself was the leverage. A devastated country with no money, no electricity, no functioning economy, and 1 million displaced citizens does not need to be coerced into choosing reconstruction over loyalty to a foreign patron that just got it bombed into poverty. Iran built its regional influence on 2 pillars: fear and dependency. Lebanon just demonstrated that both pillars have a load limit. The question now is what Iran does next, and whether it still has the capacity to do anything at all. Because on the northern border of Lebanon, 400,000 Israeli reservists are waiting, and the tanks are already moving. 400,000 reservists. Tanks massed on the Lebanese border. An invasion that, by every military indicator available, is not a question of whether, but when. Hezbollah will face it more alone than at any point in its 40-year history. To understand what Shabani's expulsion means on a battlefield, you need to understand how Hezbollah actually functions as a military organization. It is not a conventional army that stockpiles weapons and operates independently. It is a system, and Iran is the operating system underneath it. Iranian intelligence provides targeting data. Iranian logistics officers manage the weapons pipeline that moves precision missiles from factories in Iran through Syrian corridors into Lebanese storage sites. Iranian financial officers manage the payroll of an organization with tens of thousands of fighters and a parallel civilian bureaucracy. Iranian strategic advisors, embedded at senior levels of Hezbollah's command, translate Tehran's geopolitical objectives into operational orders. Remove the operating system and the applications still run. But they slow down. They crash at critical moments, and they cannot update themselves when conditions change. Shabani was the human embodiment of that operating system. He is gone. The weapons pipeline he managed does not automatically transfer to a new handler. Every relationship he built, with Syrian intermediaries, with Lebanese logistics networks, with Hezbollah's financial officers, was personal, built over years, and secured by his IRGC authority. His replacement, whoever Tehran sends next, assuming Lebanon even allows a replacement, starts from zero. In peacetime, that transition costs months of reduced effectiveness. In the middle of an active conflict, with an Israeli ground invasion days away, it could cost something far more consequential. Friction in military operations kills people, and not always the right ones. Israel's military planners understand this. The timing of Lebanon's expulsion, whether coordinated with Jerusalem or simply fortunate from Israel's perspective, could not be more advantageous. Hezbollah is being asked to fight its most dangerous battle with degraded command coordination, interrupted logistics, and strategic guidance arriving through back channels instead of a trusted operational officer with direct access to Tehran's decision-makers. Every hour of confusion at the command level is an hour Israel's ground forces can exploit. Now watch what Iran does, because the response tells you everything about what Iran has left. Tehran's options are, in reality, very few. It could attempt to retaliate against Lebanon, pressure the Lebanese government, threaten to cut off whatever financial flows still move through unofficial channels, signal to Hezbollah that political consequences will follow. But retaliation against Lebanon right now, as its cities lie in ruins and its people are burying their children, would be an act of such breathtaking cruelty that it would detonate whatever remaining sympathy Iran holds in the Arab world. It would hand Saudi Arabia's narrative that Iran is a predator that sacrifices Arab lives for Persian strategic interests, a gift so large that even Iran's remaining allies could not defend against it. So Iran will not retaliate against Lebanon, not openly. It could attempt a dramatic military escalation, a direct strike on Israel, activation of other proxies, a show of force designed to signal that Iran remains dangerous and cannot be humiliated without consequence. But Iran's proxy network is precisely what is fracturing. The Houthis are isolated and under sustained military pressure. Iraqi militias are being quietly defunded and politically marginalized by a Baghdad government that has calculated, correctly, that American reconstruction money is worth more than Iranian loyalty. Syria is gone. Assad's fall removed the central corridor of Iran's weapons logistics, the geographic spine of the entire proxy strategy. A dramatic escalation now, with the network degraded and the regional audience watching to see who wins, risks a military response Iran cannot absorb and a political humiliation it cannot survive. Iran will issue statements, angry, defiant, carefully worded statements about Zionist conspiracies and American imperialism and the eternal resilience of the resistance. The statements will be loud. The actions behind them will be small. This is what strategic retreat sounds like when a government cannot admit it is retreating. Step back and look at what has happened across 40 years and then across the last 40 days. Iran built a regional empire without territory, an empire of proxies, of armed groups, of financial dependencies, of ideological networks. It was a brilliant strategy for a mid-sized power surrounded by hostile states and outgunned by its enemies. It gave Iran leverage far beyond what its economy or conventional military could justify. For decades it worked, because the proxies believed the relationship was worth the cost, and because the populations those proxies operated within had not yet calculated the full price of being used as forward positions in someone else's war. That calculation has now been made. In Lebanon, in Iraq, in the corridors of Gulf capitals, in the quiet decisions of governments that are no longer returning Tehran's calls, the answer came back the same. The cost is too high. The patron cannot protect us. The protection was never really for us. Empires built on fear are durable until the fear breaks. Then they collapse fast, not in a single dramatic battle, but in 100 small decisions made by 100 different actors who all reach the same conclusion in the same season. Lebanon's expulsion of Shabani is one of those decisions. It will not be the last. What you are watching is not the end of a war. It is the end of a system. And systems, when they go, do not announce themselves. They simply stop working, one broken circuit at a time.